Welcome to another episode on our channel. We wanted to bring Brie back to show her with lights on. So we ordered some new batteries. They came in today and put the batteries in. The hands work, but the head does not. So with the old batteries, I put them in two different ways. The way the instructions say to put them in, and then I twisted them around in the opposite direction just in case they had miswired it. Didn't work. The new batteries, I did the same thing, both ways. Doesn't work. So you can basically turn it on and there's no light showing. I thought, well, maybe if I put the head on, maybe it'll complete a circuit and it'll light up. No, doesn't work. I thought then maybe if I click that on there, it'll work. No. So the eyes do not light up. The hands do light up though. So if I can get the switch, there we go. That does light up. So if you want to use her with her powers, maybe shooting with a hand, you can use the translucent bracer, put that on here. And then the translucent fist, you can put that on here. Kind of hard to get on. Okay. And for effect, assuming that she's like firing her power at somebody, you can use this thing. It looks like a charge of some form. So that can just go on and boom. It's like she's firing at somebody. So that's one look you can use with her, or you can use another look, which doesn't include the hand in this situation. So you would take the hand off. And then you would put onto the peg itself, not another hand, but this thing, which basically is what they used to handcuff her powers. They just sealed her powers in by using this thing. And they put them on both hands. So she couldn't fire. It was this blocked the firing power. So you could use her that way if you wanted to. And I suppose if you wanted to, with both of these attachments, you could even use the yellow mohawk instead of the brown one. I personally do not like mohawks. I do not like this head, so I'm not going to pose her this way. So let's pause for a second and let me remind you of how she looks with her regular head, and then we'll do something slightly different. So this is how I almost want to showcase her. I love the facial features. Why they use brown hair, it's so bizarre. She had blonde hair in the movie. If anything, it was a dusty blonde look. It wasn't brown. So it's really bizarre to me that this looks this way. It's so brown. I thought about painting it, and then I thought, well, that will ruin the value of the piece if I do paint it. So I came up with an alternative process, and I'll pause and get set up so we can show you the alternative. So here's what Hot Toys came up with. It's a wonderful head sculpt or facial sculpt. The hair is off. There's a third-party maker of Brie. She looks pretty darn good. And she has blonde hair. So I am going to put this head on this figure, and I think it will look more appropriate to the movie. So let me pause and get set up for that process. So the goal is to get this head on this figure. And I have several neck choices. I could use a male neck, but it does have an Adam's apple. I could turn it around. The one thing I'd have to do is I'd have to paint it a different color because this is darker than her facial features. But it's very thick and it's not going to fit into the neck area unless you drill out more of this opening to fit over that part, and you basically take the shape down so it's skinnier because it's really thick neck. Of course, it's made for a male, so that's not going to work. So I'm just going to put that off to the side. These are also male adapters that you can put over pegs and then place a head on top of it. This has a tongue on it that would go into a groove. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, right here, right? This one doesn't, but they're almost of the same circumference. You might be able to see it, right? But this one does not have a tongue, okay? It's still too big. It's not gonna work. And it's not gonna fit into this part either. So it's not gonna fit here. It's not gonna fit here. So those won't work. Now, here's another male adapter. It's actually made out of plastic. It's not soft or more pliable like these other adapters. So this is a male adapter. Now this one does fit in here very nicely. The problem is it doesn't fit onto this head. The opening is way too small for it to fit. Now I can get it on just a bit, but the neck looks way too long. I'd have to, or my husband would have to, one of us would have to kind of Dremel out some of this plastic here to get it to fit over this neck. So even though this fits nicely on the peg, and if we drilled it out, we could probably have it fit enough so that the neck doesn't look like a giraffe. But you'd have to really, get in there and dig out some of that plastic to make that hole big enough to fit over this thing. So that's probably not an option. The other not an option is the female adapter. This is smaller. This is going to fit very nicely into this head. But it's not wide enough to fit over the peg. And there's no way you can actually Dremel it out to make it fit. It's not wide enough. It doesn't have the circumference to do that. And it'd be a very skinny neck. Anyway, so the female adapter won't work, period. So a lot of the male adapters or the male necks won't work, but I did find this one male neck that does fit, not perfectly, but it does fit into the head. It just has a little problem going over the peg, and that's where hot water comes into play. So we'll be right back with some very hot water, and I'll get it on, and let's see what we can do. I still think we might have to drill it out a bit to get it to fit nicely, or hot glue it in so it stays on very nicely. So we'll be right back with some very hot water. This water is so hot, you can probably see the steam rising if you look close enough. This neck piece is pliable, but even if it was just plain plastic and very hard to the touch, I think with enough hot water, you could still get it to fit. So I'm just going to put that in there and wipe some of that water that fell out. Ooh, that is hot. All right. Probably won't take long. So now it's very pliable. So there's a hole on both ends. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to wiggle it on. It may take me several tries, but we'll see what happens. There we go. So it's on there. All right. Now, I just want to get her head on top of that. And hopefully press it down enough where she stays in place. Ah, ah, ah. Hopefully, I won't regret this. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to get it on a bit better, and I want to smooth out her hair. It's very ragged right now. So we'll pause and do that, and then show you the final look of her with blonde hair. We are back, and this is the neck I showed you with Brie's head on top of it. It is showing her more like she looked in the movie with blonde hair. It could be a little bit shorter, and I might get brave and cut it a bit, but regardless, it's another option if you want it. If you want to be a little bit more true to the movie, this would be a head that might work. If you want to keep her the way that Hot Toys made her, then that would work. So we'll get just a close-up and call it quits for the day. You may like the original head better. It does sport brown hair, which is not appropriate to the movie. So if you do want a different option, this is simply another option you could use. I hope you've liked what you've seen. If you have, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. In the meantime, everyone, please have a great day.